Right now, 8:45. Welcome back, everybody.
So there probably really were stirred, you just had to look that way.
Thank you, first of all, for coming here from your house
Yeah, you're right.
today.
It's so cold.
Well, maybe that's a real Massachusetts winter weather.
This is, yeah, let's think about Massachusetts. This is really authentic.
yes,
that's right.
Authentic.
Back to one of our themes of poetry
Right.
here. Lele Barkhausen is going to tell us about the poetry and more of Emily Dickinson.
I am. First, I'm gonna introduce by showing you a picture. Henry and I have the distinct pleasure challenge of babysitting two grandkids from the state of Washington, a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. Last night we did, instead of a story, a bedtime story, we read them poems of Shel Silverstein, and the favorite was A Treehouse. Do you know that one? A tree house, a free house, a you and me house. Oh. So this morning, the 3-year-old came running down and made me this picture, and she wanted me to share it with my friends. At church, we're going to talk about a free house for you and me. So Shel Silverstein and his poems always seem a little easier to understand than our dear friend, Emily Dickinson. But I wanted to start off by saying, I raised my hand to lead this discussion because I grew up with both Emily Dickinson in the house and Thomas Wentworth Dickinson. The reason being that my dad, Tom knows, would challenge us each Sunday to come to the table with a poem to read or a little bit of something we were reading. Good morning, Marge, welcome.
Good morning, sorry.
So, something we were reading. So there'd be this mad race to the bookshelf where the Emily Dickinson poems were. Not because we could understand them, but because they were short. So I got to know Emily Dickinson as a child because of appreciating how short they were. Now, why did we grow up with Henry Wentworth Dickinson? Is because he is my great uncle. And so we grew up knowing the stories of what a radical abolitionist Henry Thomas Wentworth Dickinson was, and how he fought so strongly for the rights of for the formerly enslaved, that he was determined that America should free the slaves. And he went on he started as a Unitarian minister, so there's the Unitarian background. Marty and I both were raised in the Unitarian church. And then he was so radical in his sermons, fighting as an abolitionist to free the slaves, that he wasn't welcome at one of the congregations anymore. But he's a very learned man, apparently, and a writer. At one point, he was an editor of the Atlantic magazine. He was always publishing. So he had a broad audience. And he started writing, or he continued writing his essays. And during that time, the Civil War did break out. Well, part of him, we will get to Emily, don't worry. But Higginson was also one of the secret six who backed the failed attempt to free some slave to get the armory at Harper's Ferry that John Brown led. And so Higginson lent money and his public stature to this cause. And he was the only one who ended up not being hung or taken to court because of the involvement. He spoke openly and determinedly. He took full responsibility for his involvement. But because he was such a public figure, people seemed to be afraid that there would be a big uprising if he went to court. But he stood by his beliefs that it should have been that we needed to end slavery. The other thing that he did is he raised his hand and took the challenge to organize the first Black regiment of formerly enslaved people down in South Carolina. The acknowledgement goes to Robert, who died with his troop, his regime. then began the movie Glory. Yeah, but the year before that, our great uncle raised his hand and went down and organized a group of illiterate, formerly enslaved people in the first South Carolina regiment, and he wrote a book about it, The Army Life in a Black Regime. He was then wounded, but not mortally, thank God. And so he left and went to politics.
Robert Gould Shaw.
Gould Shaw, yeah. So some of the things that I grew up with and was encouraged to read are the letters and journal of Thomas Wentworth Higgins and Army Life in the Black Regime, then the complete Civil War journal and selected letters of Thomas Wentworth Dickinson. Why do you want to know about Thomas Wentworth Dickinson? Well, I don't know, but except that you got me, so myself. That's a little bit about him.
Martin Luther King weekend,
We're-
so this is so very appropriate.
We're sort of proud of him.
Yes.
When he
Junior.
later after the Civil, so during the Civil War, before the Civil War is when he started corresponding with Emily Dickinson. And at this time, he was actively writing essays and letters to the editor, whatever. He was one of the editors. So anyway, at in the Atlantic, which was well distributed in Massachusetts. Okay, so Emily Dickinson's father took that. Emily Dickinson had that in her home. We know for a fact that she knew about this man, this prominent radical abolitionist, Thomas Wentworth Higginson, and answered his call when he put a letter out to young contributors. His second cause was the women's right to vote and women being more visible. So he was putting out a letter asking women to submit things, to submit writing to him at the Atlantic magazine, which is how Emily Dickinson introduced herself to him and how he became introduced to her. This is really easy to read book, unlike some of these others, which you might want to borrow from me if you ever wanted to read them. But this quite a bit of press is called White Heat, and we'll read the poem that references. And it is the 25-year correspondence friendship between Emily Dickinson and Thomas Wentworth Dickinson. And there's a lot of research. There are a lot of different ways that he is remembered for his relationship with Emily Dickinson. This author gives him a lot of the credit for bringing her into the public eye and to try to encourage her writing. However, he thought that if he published her first letter to him, enclosed 4 poems, and asked him to be her teacher, to please look at her poems and to tell her if they were alive and what he thought could be done with them. Well, he took her at her word and wrote back with some criticism and some ideas of how she could indeed make it more palatable to the public. What he says in his journals are that he was afraid that she would be crushed by the public response if he were to publish them the way they were, because unlike Shel Silverstein and A Free House in the Treehouse, they were a little harder to understand. And she told him that she absolutely did not want them published and wrote a poem to that effect about things that are published are, worthless and only for the money or whatever.
She didn't want to change, right?
She didn't want to change her.
Good for her.
She should have called it an auction, right?
She called it an novel. That's the one, you probably know it. And so, this author, Brenda Wineapple, who's written this book that's widely available, it gives him a lot of credit for encouraging her over the 25 years. He's one of the few people, one of 2 people that she invited into her home who was outside of the neighborhood and kept in touch. They exchanged books of poetry and he, because he was a writer, he would give her his poems and others. during the time that, well, there was great sadness. He lost a child. He lost his wife. She lost a nephew, and would be responding to each other. And while he was in the Civil War, she was writing him letters and giving him a lot of sort of encouragement while he was down there doing that. And then other people go on to widely criticize the Thomas Wentworth Higginson and saying that because anybody can write anything, right? All of us could write about each other and we'd all have a different how I look at it. So some people nowadays are criticizing our relative Higginson, saying that he should have just fought harder to put her in the public eye, not listen to what she said, but go on ahead, see what the public would think. And he did not, some people say that he changed a lot of her words and changed a lot of her punctuation. In his journals, he says, no, he fought against changing them. Well, now we're getting into the weeds, but there's a big scandal in that Emily's brother, Austin, lived next door. So she could walk across there because she said she only walked across her father's lawn. She never went into town. Brother lived next door. He was married to Sue. Some people speculate that she and Emily had a love affair. We don't know, who cares? And then her brother took on a lover, Mabel Todd. And Mabel Todd was a lot younger and became very open with this adulterous affair. And it would come over and meet with the brother in Emily's downstairs. Well, Emily, stayed upstairs. So some people, anyway, she never met Mabel Todd, her brother's paramour, whatever you call it, in person. She refused. But some people say, well, she actually passed some letters, or she left some letters under cushions and things downstairs. So who knows? Again, who knows? But this Mabel Todd was not well thought of in the community, as you can imagine, because Austin, the brother, was highly thought of, had taken over the family law firm. And it was pretty scandalous that here, this openly married woman, Mrs. Mabel Todd, was carrying on this affair. Okay, so he dies, and now Mabel's left, and Emily's sister, who she lives in the house with, Lavinia, had sort of promised to the brother that she would leave some land to Mabel Todd. Well, once he died, Lavinia said, nope, go away. Well, Mabel started, you will see Mabel's name a lot as you get into reading about Emily Dickinson, because she took Emily Dickinson on as her cause celebre and her way to rise in popularity to the general public in Amherst, Massachusetts. So she started actively changing. This is talked about in here. This is written down that it was Mabel Todd who started changing the words. She wanted them to rhyme, and she wanted the punctuation to be more acceptable. And Higginson he says he fought her and wanted to keep it more pure to what Emily had written, but then eventually gave in. So the first books of poetry that you'll find are co-authored between Higginson and Mabel Todd, who was busy, bringing herself up into the realm of proper society, let's say. So anyway, that's a lot. When Emily died, her sister that she was living with, Lavinia, found over 1,800 poems that she had left, some of which were hand sewn. Sorry, I did not hand sew for you, but in little booklets that she called fascicles of up to 18 or 19 poems. So here you are, a little gift for you on this whole January day, a fascicle with some poems that I thought you might enjoy, and the gingerbread recipe at the back. There he is.
Wow.
You're welcome, you're welcome, you're welcome.
We're gonna read one together when we know, so I can.
We could read some, I tried to choose ones that were more on the hopeful side.
You had to dig pretty deep there.
Everything is so fun, right, Bill?
Yeah,
And so,
a point about, Dickinson, which is really interesting. If you go on the Atlantic magazine website now, you can actually see his articles. He had a famous article on on Nat Turner's rebellion in 1821. And I looked it up, there it was.
there
So
was.
if you're a subscriber to the Atlantic, I
Yeah.
suggest you check out Higginson's anti-slavery articles.
He was so determined on
Yeah, I
that.
think for
Thank you.
the subscription, you got access to everything Atlantic has ever published in over 150 years or so.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. I didn't realize it.
Oh, well.
Wow.
It's a good deal.
Well, I'd love to know what your favorite Emily Dickinson poem is. This is the one that I kept in my room for my whole teaching career. Because, well, hope, not that I taught it to my young immigrants, because hope is a thing with feathers. They didn't quite get that, and I hardly do, but I do like the visual a little bit of hope, okay, so I didn't give you an index. Sorry about that, or table of contents. But I did try to write big numbers on each page. So like, for example, this is number 2, if you wanted to. We'll look at that.
Well, I could dwell on possibility as well.
Okay, did I copy that one?
Yeah, that's in here.
Okay, which number is that? And do you feel comfortable? Do you wanna, would you like to read it, or do you want to talk about Emily Dickinson and your impressions and your favorite, or how would you like to?
Read it.
Fair enough. I read it like this. Hope is a thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. The sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me.
Ooh, it's a wonderful one. Oh, what a great ending.
That's a good ending, man.
Oh, it's a beautiful ending.
So caveat first off, after knowing a little bit more of this history, some of these words could have been changed. Some of these dashes and periods could have been changed, but I wasn't as concerned about finding the original as I was of getting the content.
If you actually look at the one on the screen from the Poetry Foundation website, you see nothing but dashes, very different than the punctuation here.
Mhm.
So after her death, Abel Cott and others, other editors, including some on Susan Dickinson's side of the family, decided to regularize the punctuation.
That's right,
So-
because the niece that was left, Martha, has done a lot.
What they thought was regular.
Right, well, it's, you know,
There we go.
I mean,
But it can make a big difference.
well, it makes a huge
First
difference.
of all,
No.
why is hope quoted? Are we not to take it literally?
Why is hope the thing? That's what I always wondered.
The thing.
Yes.
They're different. That's fun.
They are different.
But I would disagree with the last word, or the last sentence. Never asked a crumb of me, because that indicates a passive person, somebody who's hoping but not doing anything about it. And if you have hope, you have to move towards that hope by action or thought. And so I would disagree with that last line. I think the foregoing is beautiful.
So if you were writing it, you would change it. Your way of doing it would be,
Yes.
you change it so that you were being more active.
I like it with the dashes. It never stops.
I like it with
The
the dash.
dashes.
I like it with the dashes too.
And sweetest in the gale.
What is it? Why do you like it?
And I mean,
Pause.
it has a different cadence.
Well, it forces you to pause.
It pause.
Stop.
The pause.
Think about, well, what's gonna
Right,
come next?
exactly.
I did read somebody's PhD thesis as I was trying to learn something about this for this lesson today. And her whole thesis is on those dashes.
Oh,
And then the female poets of
Yeah.
the time in New England use the dashes as a veil and as a way of making the other words around the dashes pop. And to have sort of hidden things that might be covered by the dashes. Versus somebody with PhD, and I think of things to say, I think sometimes, but
Well,
it is cute.
I would say any poet would agree with that, though. I mean, they definitely, they create space. You don't know what's coming next, right? They're non-hierarchical the way normal punctuation is.
commas.
Subordinate clauses and what have you. These are all kind of clauses laid out there. It makes it more difficult to read when you read them this way, but this is now how they're always presented ever since they were re-edited in the early 50s.
Would someone like to read it with the dashes? How do you think that would flow?
I will.
Thanks.
So you think this is the actual more accurate version?
Yeah, it is.
So the more accurate version has hope in parentheses.
Well, it's taken from classical, I'm sure.
Hope is the thing with feathers that perches on this in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and some must be the storm, sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. Thank you. It changes that last bit, Eleanor. Like the dash in there suddenly it changes the meaning of the back of the last stanza. Some people need to invest into hope, but to me in particular, it's never asked a crumb for it. I don't know what she what she was trying to think, but it's interesting because it makes it optional. Right?
And here we have the
dash on.
Well, the sequence.
we have the capital letters here too, which is another point of
That's
intention
right, Gale and extremity.
that Higginson and Todd.
And they also retain many of her misspellings in later editions.
Yes.
Oh, really?
You know, I think it might be fun for everybody to look at something here.
Oh, good.
The because I could not stop for death, number 8.
We were talking about that.
Let's look at 8.
Let me find it.
This is the actual manuscript picture of it, so you can see how she did these dashes. Let's just pass that around.
We'll look this up.
Oh, her.
Well, I would say that perhaps the dash is not optional, but making it more personal.
Yeah,
Oh, Susan, okay.
and I think what Greg said is give you pause to really think about it in between
The words. Sorry, I mean, the pages are falling in. Well answered.
Now, folks at home, can you see this next one? Because I could not stop for death?
Yes.
Thank you.
What number?
It's 38. It's 8 in your little fascicle. And we know that
This shows
Emily Dickinson did not put titles on her poems. She just went for it.
479.
But then people started using the first line. So that's what the first line of this poem is, because I could not stop for death. And
And then the first series, real editions of this stuff, actually, they number the poems. Then another one came out, also from Harvard University Press, which numbered them differently. So if you read scholarship, they'll have them both numbered.
And that would be what, I mean, the order in which.
So it's the conjectural order in which they were composed. But then,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, 5 years ago or 10 years ago, this edition came out, also from Harvard. So they get you coming and going. If you're a Dickinson scholar, you have to, they own the copyright, so you actually have to write for permission, according to Susan Howe. And these actually recreate the so-called fascicles that Thomas Johnson called.
Oh,
great.
And so they're in that order. But you can never find anything. You have to go this index in the back and, get a microscope and look for the first one.
Yeah.
But those are
I
the,
can imagine it'd be hard, yeah.
those are the difficulties of being a Dickinson scholar, I'm sure.
There you are. Would anyone like to read this, Bill, since you brought it to our attention? Would you like to read out loud or would some?
All right, I'll see what I can do, yeah. And again, that really is what this is taken
I
from.
could not make that up.
Would you rather have your original then?
No, because I can't, it's hard to read. Her
I couldn't
handwriting is
read it. It's
is
really hard to
clear.
read your handwriting.
But that's the one with the dashes. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves in immortality. We slowly drove, we knew no haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too, for his civility. We passed the school where children played, their lessons scarcely done. We passed the fields of gazing grain. We passed the setting sun.
It's different words.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Where's the story?
They're not the same.
Yeah, past the setting sun, or rather, he passed us. This is the one that they cut out.
No, up above,
No, but this is the stanza they cut out.
And
Abel Todd or whoever. Actually, I think it
They
was
cut it.
Bianchi.
Okay.
So go back here.
Uh-huh.
Or rather, he passed us, the sun passed us. The dews drew quivering and chill. For only gossamer my gown, my tippet only toe. We paused before a house that seemed a swelling of the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice in the ground. Since then, 2 centuries, and yet feels shorter than a day. I first surmised the horses' heads were toward eternity.
Bill, Bill, what I
Yeah,
read,
The whole
They-
stanza missing.
They censored that.
what I read.
They really did.
is
Could we
that
go back
They
to
found
the one that was censored?
is that they found it too depressing. And so they clipped out those verses at one point. This is where
Well, there's a
They-
line right after the children strove that you read. It's not there.
publishers.
What?
We
Where the
passed
children
the scroll,
strove,
where
right.
children strove, and then there's a line that you read that's not there.
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Could you read it? Could you read that again?
At recess in the ring.
Oh, recess in the ring, yeah. And the strokes, they didn't want the children striving either, It's like, wait a second, isn't childhood idyllic?
They,
Children
meaning
striving, they're competing.
the Harvard University English Department?
Pardon?
Well,
Who changed this? Was it the Harvard publishers?
Who changed it to the
yeah, I forget
law,
where I
to
read.
what it is, to its actual state?
Yeah.
A guy named Thomas Johnson,
Okay.
who went to the original manuscripts and re-edited everything, and then a guy named Ralph Franklin did the same thing
Franklin.
20 years later.
What
They
authority did they have to do that?
had the actual original manuscripts.
What was their motive?
Yeah, what motive?
Dates were they doing that? 19 what?
1951 is when Johnson's edition came out, and it changed everybody's view of Emily Dickinson. She became the first avant-garde poet as of American, other than Walt Whitman, but
And she was one that left out stuff she didn't think was interesting.
other people, prior editors,
And
had left it out, had cut it out.
So when they went back to the original, she became more of an avant-garde.
Absolutely,
so she was the one to put them back in.
the editor did. We went back to that actual manuscript that I was passing around
Uh-huh.
and
Deciphered.
transcribed it.
Deciphered that.
Scholars will talk about these not as published, but transcribed. It's really odd. There's a whole movement that actually, when you publish an Emily Dickinson poem, if you're an editor, you should actually always have the actual facsimile of the poem on the page. And there is a whole
You want,
2-volume edition of nothing but the facsimiles.
you want a picture of her handwriting right next to it.
Right. I mean, Susan Howe, for instance, thinks she's a visual artist. I think it's a little extreme, but whatever.
I was thinking that in the, like it is today, the motive was money.
Oh, yeah.
Well, publishing it, yeah, but it's also,
Publishing is money.
it's
That's the
the
business.
motive of scholarship. I mean, the fact that Harvard owns the copyrights on these, I would agree that Harvard University Press, they like it. But the motive was accuracy and scholarship to what the artist actually did. And that had been corrupted,
Oh,
clearly had been corrupted over the years.
Really?
As you can see from the difference there.
so it was an argument as to what was original.
Correct, correct. If you go for the original manuscripts, because she took a lot of care with them. She destroyed all of her rough drafts for the most part, till she got a little older. But she would copy these out in ink. It was a big deal. She'd bind them together, just like Lele has done.
Yeah.
And they were all found in the drawer. There were 40 of them, 40 of these festivals, in addition to hundreds of other poems that were equally well drawn, I should say, I suppose.
And what I read too is that her sister, who she lived with, Lavinia, discovered this box of letters, some of which sort of pointed towards perhaps she had been intimate with people and she burned them. And so there's a lot that we don't know, which I think is part of why she's so intriguing
Right.
as a figure.
The enigma.
Because we don't know.
Then Mabel Todd actually went and, according to one scholar, the reigning Dickinson scholar, went and cut up her letters. And where she found references to her sister-in-law, Sue, who she clearly loved. You read the letters, and it's just obvious. There's nothing really exciting about that. But whether you want to turn her into a lesbian poet is another issue, but that's not what we care about. But she did censor the letters, and the scholars go to the archives, and there are all these holes in them, and words crossed out.
Who censored the letters? Emily herself.
We think Austin's
Lover,
lover,
Mabel.
Mabel.
Who was trying to bring herself up by saying that she was Emily's best friend and she should be the authority over like her Emily's
But
sister.
they never met.
They never met.
Well, they never met, but she wrote her
refused to
letters,
meet her.
you know, right. Been in the house, right? You said that.
It's free.
Oh, it's well.
It's all distracted from everything, yeah.
And you probably, and you know a lot more than I do about it. I read that the Emily Dickinson Museum in the last couple of years has received millions of dollars in grants. So there's a lot that we can now look for if we go to Amherst.
Oh, trouble trying.
It's in Amherst.
That's right.
Wouldn't that be fun to go to?
Oh,
The-
Yeah, I'm on, dude.
The home is called, the homestead. It's the one that her father had bought and she left it, she and Lavinia.
By the way, this poem was, there's a poem about death was in 1862. So you've got the background of the Civil War.
Good point.
She wrote about 800 poems, many of the most famous ones between 1861 and 1865.
Okay.
Including a very explicit Civil War poem, which was, I ran across it reading for this. It was really interesting.
So avant-garde at the time for someone who was just purely an internal life, she basically never left her room, let alone the house.
Yes, and
It's all coming from her imagination or just what she had read or
Reading.
and the pictures that you see, so these
How she experienced.
these little tables look to be, and I haven't been to the house, I can't wait to go, about the size of her writing table. They had room for one little piece of paper and then her, oil lamp. And that was it. And she had a window down. And she would tell people who came to visit, she was too busy. She was way too busy.
Is it?
Go downstairs.
So
If you're devoted to your art, that's what you would have to do.
Exactly, and in this book, in the white heat between Emily's relationship with Higginson, he writes about being admiring her so much that she delved into her craft with so much focus that she didn't leave the room, whereas he had all this restless energy and passion, and he was out there in the Civil War and preaching and
Did they
admired.
actually then never meet? If she never
They
came
did
to-
meet. They did meet.
yeah.
And she came down, she invited him, he came, she came downstairs, handed him a plan of some people translate it as a daylily or some kind of a lily. And in his journal, as she is handing it to him, she says, "When are you leaving?"
How did they meet again?
This was his letter in the Atlantic asking women, young contributors to write into him. And he started receiving letters from women and he wanted to publish them. He wanted their names so that instead of just being published as anonymous or as a man's name, but that they could actually use their own name.
He was before its time. Yeah.
Well,
Way
she did
before
have,
his
she
time.
did have poems that were published anonymously. Friends would steal them and send them off. There's one anthology that came out and Emerson was connected with, so everybody assumed that the poem in there was written by Emerson, not Dickinson.
Yeah.
Okay.
But when Higginson visited her like after maybe 10 years, that's where the famous
Right.
quote, what she says, "If I read a book and it makes my whole body so cold no fire could ever warm me, I know that is poetry. If I feel physically as if the top of my head were taken off, I know that is poetry."
Isn't that great?
Yes,
So
that's pretty
think
much.
about that for a second. It's so cold.
Emily wrote
So much, yeah, so much earth. She said that, Higginson transcribed, wrote it down.
Wrote it down in
Well, but that's marvelous because
What's
she
it?
lived in Amherst.
Amherst,
Yeah.
Amherst, Massachusetts, and her house is there.
That's
And the
marvelous.
school that-
Because she was open to the whole world.
Is
From
what?
one end.
Amherst College, Holyoke,
Yeah.
there's 5 colleges right in the Amherst area.
One of my former voice students goes there.
Oh,
And picking her brain when she comes home is going to be extremely interesting. And I
Yes.
hope there's an extra of this that I would like to give to Alicia.
oh, good.
You would be thrilled.
It would be fun
She is an English major.
It
She's
would-
in the right place.
It would be fun to know what she sees when she goes there now at the
Yes, I-
museum. Is it
We'll be picking
open?
her brain when she back.
Oh,
So I wonder, getting back to where that Chuck saw the change here, I finally found the poem. "We passed the school where children strove at recess in the ring. We passed the fields of gazing grain, apple-eyes." Interesting phrase. We passed the setting sun, or rather, he passed us. The dews grew quivering and chill. Right? Or only gossamer my gown, my tippet only told. In other words, she went out there in her nightgown,
Right.
like death stopped for her.
And another one of the.
Because she was going to immortality, right? Because immortality is sitting in the vehicle with her. We paused before a house that seemed swelling on the ground. Uh-oh, that doesn't look good.
It doesn't,
The roof was scarcely visible. The cornice in the ground, well, that doesn't look good either.
yes,
Since then, 'tis centuries, one of her famous posthumous poems. Since then, the centuries, and yet, 'tis centuries, and yet feels shorter than the day I first surmised the horses' heads were toward eternity. She goes from immortality to eternity. The change happens in that one stanza, or rather, he passed us, and she starts to feel cold. And there's a difference between immortality and eternity, as she's saying it here. This is like Marvell's deserts of vast eternity into his coy mistress. So she goes from the hope of for immortality to a kind of blank eternity.
So
So
what,
That makes me
what
feel.
we have here in the fourth verse, we paused before a house that seemed.
the swelling of the ground.
Yeah,
The roof
Yeah,
was
and what
scarcely-
do you have at that point?
yeah, that's right. That's, they didn't change that. They
The roof
changed the
was
two stanzas above it. One they eliminated,
yeah.
and the other one that they took out striving, which
Striving, right.
which would suggest some sort of, competition.
But that's scary, what you said, Losi, the house is sinking,
Right,
the house is
And
barely
the-
there.
right. That's the
The
graveyard.
earth is like.
I thought it was gonna be.
And
It's
that-
the graveyard,
It's
yes.
the graveyard.
That
yeah.
was left behind with this
We're
poem.
going down, I
You
you
don't
down in
know.
the grave and you can barely see it.
Just in the.
Yes, just coming to the graveyard and say, hey, wait a second.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I thought we were going that way.
Mhm.
Oh, okay,
Yes, so
we better get used to this.
Yeah.
Eternity.
This is, right, this is how you spend eternity.
Yeah, trying to decipher what.
Not in the Lethean fields, somewhere else.
Right.
So that fourth verse, when it says, we paused before a house that seemed the swelling of the ground, the implication is that it was no longer there.
Yeah, over the centuries.
Right,
So that it's,
The roof was scarcely visible, according to also.
right. So mausoleum they're talking about sinking down too. So that indicates
Yeah.
not only eternity, but eternity has its, shall we say, qualities of erosion. And I believe so. Everything sinks down.
What is like civic?
Is eternity good or bad?
It's bad here.
it's a good question.
I mean, it's not,
My tippet.
it is what it is.
I know what is
Rick.
tippet.
Yeah, does anybody know that?
Bill, do you know?
My tippet only tool.
Is the tippet a headdress of some type? What is a tippet?
Yeah, my hat is only made out
Yeah,
of
it's
this
some
cheap
sort of
fabric.
He says bridal
Got it.
something.
Well, I can understand that only gossamer
Yeah.
gown.
Tulle sounds
Very
like.
light, but tulle is very light, so I don't know.
Well, it's very light, whatever it is. Yeah, that's the whole point.
Oh, it's her scarf or her hat.
So
You have to look-
would this be a wedding gown instead of a nightgown?
I don't know.
I don't think so. Gossamer.
Well,
I
yeah,
wonder.
her gown and her tippet.
We gossamer my crew.
I mean,
Gossamer.
maybe there's a little bit of ambiguity there because Death looks like a kind of, come to pick her up for the dance.
Right.
Is there, does anyone have another one that they're particularly fond of or they think of when they think of Emily Dickinson?
So many. We only have 20 minutes. Let's take a little longer, but yeah, 20 minutes. Anybody? Something that you haven't read about from her in a long time?
And asking a very selfish thing, Lele, how did you begin? I wasn't even beginning, but how did you tend to become involved with this interest in poetry and also?
She's a
Well,
teacher.
maybe I'll talk to you because, Dad always had us bring a poem or a little bit of prose that we were reading and we had to read it to the dinner table, at the dinner table on Sunday. And Emily Dickinson poems were the shortest in the house, so we'd all run to them. And then we're related to Dickinson. He said, "You're great.
Children must be.
Lily and Bill, you know a lot more of these poems probably memorized than I do. Do you remember just as it decides where she said, was it part of her poem or something else? Tell the truth, but.
It's in the back here.
With a slant.
Tell all the truth, but tell it slant. It's the last one in the book.
I put it as 18 because I just love that in terms of, well, today.
So what about this one, number 12?
I love number 12.
Okay, number 12.
Okay,
We do 12 first
Yeah,
and then
let's do it.
18.
Is it up here on 12?
I'm nobody. Let me get it up on the screen.
That's the one we love this.
We'll call this, the title of this is I'm Nobody.
I'm nobody.
Hold on.
Oh, yeah, I love that one. Who are you?
The two nobodies.
I know. Don't you love that?
We're a pair of nobodies. I love it.
I love the
There we go.
last line,
That's
to an admiring bog.
Okay, this is short and sweet.
Who would like to read the short and sweet out loud?
I would,
Thank you. Go for it.
I'm nobody. Who are you? Are you nobody too? When there's a pair of us, don't tell. They'll banish us, you know. How dreary to be somebody, a public, like a frog, to tell your name the live long day to an admiring bog. Yes, I
Yeah.
said,
The live on June, it says
We
here.
got live
Yeah.
one June and.
Right,
Tell your name, you live long.
right. So that's why you don't publish. They don't want to be a fraud.
yes.
Boasting to your fellow swamp mates.
Swamp mates.
And maybe the radicalism of this sounds like any 20th century public intellectual. Nobody owns me. I'm an amateur and I'm proud of it. I'm just doing what I feel is the truth. I'm not doing it because my editor told me to. She wants to be a nobody. Doesn't want to be famous or make a lot of money.
Well, it goes.
There's a little bit of cynicism in this, isn't
Yeah.
there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
It goes with 16. Fame is a bee. It has a song. It has a sting. God, too, it has a wing.
I love that one. It's so pleasing. Yeah.
Could she have anger? Did she have anger?
Yeah, she often referred to herself as like a volcano.
Oh, really?
Ooh.
And that's either anger or intensity or white hot intensity,
Yeah, the white heat.
but supposedly, she did have some anger.
Well, she had a deep emotional life.
Oh,
Deep,
incredibly
I mean,
deep.
she's very passionate, whether.
Well,
whatever
could
it was.
she have erupted with creativity? I mean, or maybe.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what these are.
The poems are
I think that's what these are.
Yeah.
But there's also this sort of ecstatic side to her, which the poem 15 here sort of captures.
Okay.
In other words, it's about being a poet.
Let me get that up on the screen for everybody. 15.
The last
Well,
one.
impossible.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
it's not the last one, is,
I dwell in possibility.
Well,
Has everybody heard that one
You know
before?
what that is.
I mean, it's a high school favorite, right?
Uh-huh.
See, yeah.
Which one? We don't have numbers,
15 at the bottom, on the bottom right.
Here it is.
but I can't see that.
It's on the screen now.
Yeah. No, the point being, what's the first line? Here.
I dwell in possibility. Possibility is, capitalized. Would anyone care to, read it out loud?
Anybody else we haven't heard from? No, go ahead. I want to hear your feelings on this, Bill.
Number 15.
I dwell in possibility, a fairer house than prose, more numerous of windows, superior for doors, of chambers as the cedars, impregnable of eye, and for an everlasting roof, the gambrels of the sky, of visitors the fairest, for occupation this, the spreading wide my narrow hands to gather paradise.
Wow.
Okay.
Writing poetry, that's what that is.
Yeah, that is poetry.
I love that vision.
Yeah, it's,
Spreading wide my narrow hands to gather paradise. I mean, can't we all see that?
That's as grand as any Shakespeare.
That's really beautiful.
well, Shakespeare, of course, was her favorite, but it's like, this is what possibility is in poetry, hence these dashes. You know, there's always a possibility wherever this is gonna go. It's not predetermined
You have the dash.
by normal syntax.
Is she basically taking Shakespeare, you know what it's coming from, the poet out of airy nothing? I mean, just creating something out of what seemed to be nothing before, because I created it. That's it.
Right, and this is what possibility is, not prose, the house of prose, for example, in the line that we were talking about, tell all the truth, but tell it slant. You
Yeah.
know, T.S. Eliot has a line, humankind cannot bear very much reality. The same thing. But I tell you, even though that's in a poem, that's a house of prose right there. They're stuck in the cheap house of prose. You don't have the cedars of Lebanon,
That's
building your walls.
Fairer house.
Yeah,
It's not gonna be bound by punctuation or paragraphs, so it's.
right. And of course, you know, she took a lot of, when they actually, her stuff got to England, even though it had been cleaned up, they said, oh, this person doesn't know how to write. I mean, she doesn't keep the meter. She's like truncates lines. These slant lines are ridiculous.
Yeah.
She knew exactly what she was doing. That's the possibility there. She's breaking out of the traditional syntax of, you know, 18th century or 19th century poetry.
But she wasn't read in England until.
Well, it was a big deal after she died. It was pretty quick that stuff got across the ocean. And she clearly had been influenced by current English writers like Elizabeth Barrett Browning and others.
But then it influenced herself. Can we talk about who she's influenced? I mean, you think
Oh, yeah, we did the request for 18.
Rimbaud must have read her?
But they
$18.
100 years ago.
Her formative years?
Yes, because we have this is a result of her childhood.
Yeah.
The feminist poet,
Yeah.
you're interested is the result of your childhood.
Yeah. Well, that's true, very much.
Of course. I mean, it's marvelous.
I mean, I do know that part of her childhood she spent 1 year at college. And at that college, they were told to stand up if they wanted to be saved or learn about God.
What college?
And,
Holyoke Smith, really?
Was that
and,
religious at that
She
time?
wouldn't be allowed to go any further than
It was a
that.
seminary.
she was
Yeah.
one of a handful who didn't
Female.
stand up. And then she decided not to go back.
Go back,
Because
yeah.
she was given a hard time. But she even wrote a poem about that too, about, well, faith is fine. but a microscope is better in emergency.
Yeah, good for
Her about her feelings, and so she wasn't gonna just stand up with the rest of the group, but no,
That's
no.
beautiful.
So someone had asked for 18, tell all the truth, but tell it slant,
There it is.
and it's up on, thank you, Greg, starting up there.
circuit wise.
So she,
Right.
as it were, objected to the religiosity of the staff. And by sheer coincidence, yesterday, I got it in the mail at Covenant Living, I don't know. But there was a page submitted in my mailbox describing in the late 50s, 7 states that they listed to be the Midwest and South Midwest, who required Bible reading in the public school.
Yeah, I know.
Just a man.
And several that said no. And several that said, nah.
Oh, sure. The first time in 100 years, they thought the Supreme Court would think that's okay.
Would anyone like to read this out loud? Tell all the truth, but tell it slant. Right?
Sure.
Tell all the truth, but tell it slant. Success in circuit lies. Too bright for our infirm delight. The truth's superb surprise. As lightning to the children eased. With explanation kind. The truth must dazzle gradually. Or every man
I
revive.
love it.
That goes back to my childhood in a way.
Okay, tell me
Because
about
she
that.
had, you know, your early formative years are the most, set the trajectory for your entire life. So obviously, not everybody was educated or knew how to read and write at that time. She came from an educated family, but she had a lot of freedom. But there was somebody who opened her mind to all these possibilities of thought. And that's very interesting.
What about her parents? Her.
But her father would only let them read the Bible initially.
Really?
So she knows her Bible better than any of us could. But then Shakespeare was her other Bible. And she also read a lot of 17th century poets. When I first read Dickinson, which long after my schooling, I had studied 17th century poetry intensively. And I'd go like, wait a second, where did this come from? I know where this came from.
Oh,
There's a certain sense of the metaphysical lyric that you see in these.
so thinking Milton, John Donne.
Particularly George Herbert and Henry Vaughan.
Oh,
Herbert.
thank you.
There's, on the way over here, I thought of something. And I wonder if, I'm sorry, Lele, to be talking so much.
Oh, no, that's why I
You've done,
said, I'm not a
you've done, I
scholar.
love the Higginson stuff. I
It's
think,
really great.
I think he's been rescued because of that. I hope he changed all the stuff. But, Greg, the poem I died for beauty, it's not in here, but I'll read that.
Okay,
If you could get that.
I'll get it so we can all see it.
Because it's kind of similar to,
Those 4 words are a poem in and of themselves.
I died for you.
Is that in our booklet here? I died.
it's not.
No, I was trying, okay.
It's not in
I was
here.
trying to find.
Well, hold
poems
on.
That were more. on
Is that the first line of her poem?
Yes,
There's-
It's giving me,
He has a lot about that.
All right, I'll read it.
I'll look it up. Let me see. I think if I just put in her name.
I mean, it's my favorite, I think, other than the possibility one. I died for beauty.
Poetry Foundation, maybe I'll.
All right, well, great word. I died for beauty.
It's interesting, dude.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, Christie about.
I died for beauty, but was scarce adjusted in the tomb. When one who died for truth was laying in an adjoining room, he questioned softly why I failed. For beauty, I replied, and I for truth, themself are one. We brethren are, he said. And so, as kinsmen met a night, we talked between the rooms until the moss had reached our lips and covered up our names.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, and that starts with Keats's famous ode in the Grecian urn, where he's up
Really interesting.
what the urn tells you, because it's immortal, it's there, it's art. Beauty is truth, truth is beauty, it's all you need to know.
Uh-huh.
That art can outlast everything.
Uh-huh.
What she seems to be saying here is there's a slight difference between truth and beauty, because one guy died for truth. These are martyrs for somebody, right?
Right.
Martyrs for principles, martyrs for art. Yeah, and they're in adjoining rooms. They're not there together, but they're talking. So there's this dialogue between this, beauty and truth, the old Platonic forms, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end, their lips are covered up by the moss and their names. So it suggests there that not only is the speech now no longer available, but writing is gone too, our names. So it's just, okay, it's like a reply to Keats in a sense. It's like, well, yeah, you can, art will outlast everything, right? Well, no, it won't outlast nature. And I do really think that's kind of the point of that poem ultimately.
Thank you.
Nature will overtake everything.
Yeah.
That nothing human is eternal, even language.
So is beauty stronger than death? It may be, if, we're being covered up by moss, maybe, so we've got to just keep fighting.
Well, it's a different type of beauty, right? It's
Sure.
natural beauty, but then the concept is gone because the concepts of language are gone.
We
And
can
that's my take.
debate Keats forever.
Well, Keats is pretty clear. Art's a term.
What he meant.
Right,
Yeah.
she's the.
I think that's very prescient because it speaks to the anthropomorphic view of the world that we all have. That, that the humans are the world. Well, we're not.
Right,
Our planet is 4.5 billion years old and has survived catastrophes more horrible than we could possibly ever
yeah, she
imagine.
didn't even know about the white dwarf that's gonna get us in 5 billion years. But I think that's the point, language is erased.
But it's a good point of it. Art.
I died.
Well, thank you all for coming. Thank you for participating and
What an amazing
letting me
woman.
give us the Higginson and to close that out, who did invite him to come to her funeral. And so he did go and had the honor of speaking and reciting some poetry. And then wrote about her later on when he passed to write another essay on mortality, and again was referencing his friend. So
Higginson was older than Emily Dickinson, but outlived her.
Yeah.
She had, I guess, Bright's disease, and so she died.
What's
Right.
What is that?
Disease, I'm not sure, we could look it up. Her vision started going, so I'm not sure if
She had a kidney failure, I think it
to
was
her,
really caused.
her vision, but
Huh.
maybe on these cold, difficult days, we can warm ourselves up with a
I
little.
want to ask something about the recipe.
Yeah.
You spoke about her sort of in her room, cloistered all the time. Well, she must have been in the kitchen also.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
she
she
sounds
was
like-
the baker, she was the baker for the family.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, she was.
So
Oh,
she would bake the bread and she would bake the gingerbread. Please take some with you.
Yeah.
So yes,
So
no,
has anybody written a book about her holidays? Yeah.
well, yes, you can buy it. I did not. Yeah, her recipes. I think now the museum has been given so much money to get various things, and if there are blogs that are put out, one that I've been reading called White Heat, puts out what poem she wrote that week. So you get one per week in your mailbox and then the original writing that she has. So I encourage you to keep looking.
Yes,
Some of these.
We would spend the rest of the year on these poems.
Exactly.
You just really took the time
So,
to
Lele,
discuss each poem and all of it.
I know,
Oh,
I
yeah.
have no idea, but thank you so much for coming.
well, thank you.
Thank
for doing
you.
it.